Right. Hi everyone, and welcome to our Meet the Leadership Team webinar for Folkestone and Hythe District Council. My name is Jason. I work in organisational development, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce our panel for today. We are joined by Councillor David Godfrey, our Cabinet Member for Housing, Transport and Special Projects.
Hi everybody, nice to meet you, albeit through a screen and I can't see you. One day, eh?
We have Susan Priest, our Chief Executive.
Hi everyone, afternoon. Delighted that you're on this Zoom call, so really looking forward to you joining us and to meeting you in person.
Excellent. And finally, Andy Blaszkowicz, who is our Director of Housing and Operations.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you.
Fabulous, thanks folks. So they'll be talking to us about their vision for the new housing service, their expectations, and how they have been coping in lockdown. They'll also be discussing our case management way of working. Hopefully you've all had a chance to watch the short video about this, but if you haven't, don't worry, we'll show it a little bit later on. It's very short. So, Councillor Godfrey, please could you tell us about yourself and how you fit in at Folkestone and Hythe District Council?
Yeah, sure, a little bit of personal stuff. I'm married to my lovely wife, Kim, for 33 years. We've got 3 sons, 2 stepdaughters, all gainfully employed, and they've given us 12 grandchildren. So big family involvement. I've had a long career in oil supply and trading, but my background is I grew up on Romney Marsh. At the tender age of 10 or 11, I learnt how to commute to Folkestone to the Harvey Grammar School, so I'm very familiar with the local area. My career in oil supply and trading took me abroad for a long, long time. I had actually the last 12 years in Geneva, which was lovely, with Elf and Total as Global Manager Trading Operations. And I still act as a consultant to the industry from time to time. Now living in Hawkinge, back in lovely Kent. And here I became involved in the local community centre around back 2005, 2006. But I didn't run fast enough because I got sweet talked into becoming a councillor, which I'd never dreamt of doing before. And here I am, re-elected in 2011, 2015 and 2019. And the longer I actually get into this, the more enjoyable it is, believe it or not. I was elected to join the Cabinet in 2015, and my current portfolio was handed to me in June of last year. And housing is far and away the largest part of my portfolio, and I really look forward to the challenges we are all going to have ahead of us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Councillor Godfrey. And Susan.
Thank you, Jason. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As I said, I think I have met some of you before when we've had the East Kent board members and the East Kent Chiefs meeting. So delighted to be with you again today. So I'm Susan Priest. I'm married and I have 2 children, 2 boys, keep me on my toes, 14 and 17. So an interesting age for those of you that have had children. I live in Rochester, so I haven't yet moved into the district, largely because of my family commitments still and the children going through school, but it is only a short trip down to the office, but of course since March we have all been working very effectively, I would say at home or from the other premises. My background, I'm an economic geographer by heart, I suppose. Sometimes I'm asked about my PhD and am I a scientist? Well, I say no, I'm not that clever. My PhD was in government policy and economic policy, so that's my background. I joined the council actually at the end of 2013. Prior to that, I was the Chief Executive of the South East Local Enterprise Partnership. I was the first Chief Exec when they came into being. And prior to that, I spent about 13 years as becoming eventually the Executive Director for the South East England Development Agency. So my background and remit has been very much in economic development and economic policy, government policy, etc., etc. However, I had the opportunity to join the council in 2013 at a time when it had really significant growth ambitions. And I'd known the previous chief executive and some of the members for many years. Actually, I moved to the county in in 2000, in the year 2000. So I'd known them for many years. I'd known about the aspirations, and I have to say the district is just such a beautiful place. I mean, you've got the coastline, you've got AOMB, you've got access over to mainland Europe, you've got the high-speed linkage in. So, you know, what wouldn't you like really about the district? And of course, with all the investment that's gone in terms of the town centre with Roger de Haan, etc., a really fabulous mix. So all of those things combined with the ambitions of the council were the thing that made me apply, and I was successful in getting the job. So I joined as corporate director for strategic development, and in 2018 I was blessed and awarded the chief exec head of paid service role, for which I was very, very grateful and very honoured, and I am still feeling like that today, a couple of years on in that position. So that's a little bit about me and how I fit in with the council. I will just say I've been very open in terms of my leadership style and the change that we've been making over the last couple of years. I share my objectives with the senior team. I encourage them to cascade down through to their management team. You know, I believe that we are a team of individuals wanting to make a significant difference to people's lives. I truly believe that. I think that's a driver for many of us. And so as you join us and as you hear a little bit more, see a little bit more of me, you'll get to understand, I guess, some of the passion and the drivers that I have about what I would like to see the district council doing over the next couple of years. And I'm delighted, absolutely delighted that you're joining us to be part of that journey. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you so very much, Susan. And Andy.
Hi everyone, I'm Andy Blaszkowicz. As Jason's already said, a little bit about myself. I've been at the council for 7 years now. My partner Becky also works at the council. We've got 5 children between us, so that's been keeping us pretty busy. I'll go on to a bit more about that in a bit. I say started 7 years ago. I have a background in commercial contract management, but trained initially as a landscape architect, giving me a sort of passion for public open space, garden design, park design, things like that. So I started 7 years ago as grounds maintenance manager, and then worked my way up to head of service, and then became assistant director. And then most recently in January, went through an interview process before Christmas and then became director, taking on also the housing responsibility on top of the other operational service areas that I already managed. So these include grounds maintenance, buildings, estates, engineering, lifeline, parking and transport, and also running the council's private housing company Opportunitas. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you all really well going forward.
That's wonderful. Thanks so much. Thank you, everybody. So, question 2. What do you like about working at Folkestone and Hyde District Council? Councillor Godfrey, I'd like to hand it over to you first, please.
Thank you. Just as my other phone starts ringing, I'll just got rid of it. Over time, I've really enjoyed working with the council. It's I think what's really exciting, it's an ambitious, forward-thinking council, not frightened to take on pretty large and interesting projects. Of course, the huge one is Otterpool Park, which I'm sure you've all heard about. I also find that we think differently to some other councils, and I think we were possibly the first, and certainly one of the few councils, and Susan can correct me if I've got the numbers wrong, to actually have a majority party inviting members of the opposition parties to join the cabinet and work with us. And that seems to be going very, very well. And I find that quite refreshing. It's a matter of people. It's a matter of getting on with the people. And I've always found working with the people in this council very easy and very easy to talk to. And I miss actually not walking around the council offices having a chat now and again. I'll leave it at that for the moment. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much. And Susan, what do you like about working at the council?
Okay, well, I think I alluded to a little bit earlier on, but just to underline the point, we have got a really, really exciting agenda. I mean, you know, not only are there things like Councillor Godfrey has made reference to in terms of, you know, a new town. I mean, how privileged are we to be in that position of creating a new town on land that the council owns? I mean, that that opportunity doesn't come along very often in people's careers. So I feel absolutely blessed and that we've got that opportunity. So the agenda is very interesting, but it's not just that, a new development. It's things like bringing the housing service back in. You know, to have a world-class housing management service will be the ambition that you will be joining. So again, that positive ambition, that can-do attitude, the ability of this council to try new things, the willingness to try new things, to be innovative, to be creative, and to do so in a, you know, in a safe place where if we try and it doesn't work, well then, so long as we can do something about that to make the improvements, then so be it. You know, innovation and new things sometimes do come at you know, a slight risk of perhaps them not working. And we have that culture in the place now. We didn't, I don't think, a number of years ago, where with the members' blessing, because it is a member-led council, but so with the members' blessing, we can try and be innovative, try new things, and to take forward those ambitions. And I would just say, I suppose, in concluding this bit, the other part that I really like is that I would describe myself as a fairly personable person. You know, I can be a bit moody at times, but, you know, leaving that aside, I do, and Andy, I can see is smiling, but anyway, no, I can't, you know, we all have our moments, don't we? We'll come on to that, but the main thing that, and I do associate with Councillor Godfrey, is that team members and having the team, and you'll hear my mantra, which is a high-performing team. And a team is made up of individuals, and collectively we can be and we are really, really powerful. So I like the fact that we work in the council with a huge variety of people from different disciplines, from different backgrounds, from different perspectives on the world. And actually that makes it a really, really interesting place to work. A really interesting place to work. And I will just also say that the vast majority of our staff resource are actually located, they're actually residents of the district. So they have that absolutely embedded connection with the district and the place, which I think again is really, really powerful. And it's something that really quite excites me about the power of our 200, 300 staff to make change and to act as champions for the district. So hopefully that's given you a little bit more of an insight into what you know, why I like working there and what do I like about it.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much, Susan and Andy.
Thanks. This is actually really difficult for me because I have to go last. So Susan and Councillor Godfrey have already said all the things that I'm probably going to say. But for me, I mean, there's loads of things. But 4 things I wanted to single out, which have been touched upon already, which kind of all go together, are the people, the culture, the ambition, and the opportunity. As I say, it's all been alluded to already. The people are great. I mean, I joined the senior team this year, partly because Susan really leads from the top down, and it's just a great place to be. We've got great councillors, and I'm not just saying this because obviously one of our most senior councillors is on this call, but we work really collaboratively together, and the support network is there. We have a culture of trust. You can make mistakes. We want to develop people. We promote from within, which I guess is where the opportunity comes from, and the ambition of the council to be the best, to deliver the best housing service, and all the projects that we have. It is just a really great place to be. So I'll leave it at that.
That's excellent. Thank you so very much, Andy. And thanks, everyone, for your openness and honesty. Right, let's move on swiftly to question number 3. So we've all had our challenges during lockdown, and I think it'd be great to hear from you what's been helping you get through lockdown. Councillor Godfrey.
Well, I have to admit that lockdown has been getting a bit wearying, so easing off is very welcome. But we're very fortunate where I live here in Hawkinge. We board at open field, so we were able to get out and walk safely and take our dogs out, which helped a huge amount. And we kept in touch with the family every Sunday, from having Zoom meetings with sons and daughters as far afield as Luxembourg and Geneva, and they were locked down too. So that was rather fun, sharing those experiences, and it kept us all going. I'm really looking forward to getting out of it now and getting down to that lighthouse there and have a glass of champagne in the champagne bar. And let's get on with it. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so very much, Councillor Godfrey. And Susan, over to you. What's been helping you get through?
Well, I was going to say chocolate, crisps and alcohol, but actually more on a more serious note. It's basically I'm a bit of a country girl at heart, so I've got a couple of fairly large dogs, Hungarian Vizslas, and so I've made a point of going out for about an hour and a half through the woods with them, to have a break from work and from the Zoom, the relentless Zoom meetings that we have. So I think getting out, getting some fresh air, walking, doing some exercise has been great, in terms of, you know, personally helping me get through lockdown. Obviously all the same issues that hopefully we've all been drawing on in terms of our support networks through different Zoom or technologies. So sometimes I do sound more northern. For those of you that haven't quite twigged my accent, I'm from the northwest originally. I have been down in London for about nearly 30 years now, but I've had recent cause to have some family members as house guests, and so my northern twang comes out a little bit more pronounced. However, to answer the question, walking the dogs through the woods, keeping connections with friends, and I would also say, and we've tried to do this, and hopefully Andy will recognise this, but we do try and have a bit of fun at work. So we do, you know, we if we can, we do try and have interject the tough times with a bit of lightheartedness, if that's the right way to describe it, just to help us get through.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Susan. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. To be able to have that lightheartedness and that laugh with people just generates a little bit more connection with each other. So thank you for doing that. Andy.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's been such a busy time, to be honest. I mean, not only we're transitioning the housing service, which is quite a big project, as I'm sure most of you are aware, looking at it in its totality. So trying to get my head around all of that, but also leading the emergency response through the pandemic. That's part of my responsibility as well from the emergency planning perspective, and then getting all of our services back to normal. It's probably worth saying from a work point of view, Jason and the rest of the OD team have been absolutely fantastic with regular emails and organising events for all the staff and just keeping that sort of vibe going, which again relates back to our culture and looking after everybody else. But on a personal note, getting out in the woods on my bike, I've been doing quite a lot in my garden from a redesign and build point of view, so new decking, gazebo and things like that. And then getting back to the 5 kids, we do have quite epic games of family cricket in the garden. So yeah, it's all been quite good fun.
Excellent. Nothing like a little bit of garden cricket. Thank you so very much, folks. Okay, let's move on to question 4. So now this is a little bit more about what it is that we're going to be doing and what it is that you will be involved in as well, folks. So this question 4, this is, what's your vision for housing at Folkestone and Hythe District Council? And I'd firstly like to hand over to Councillor Godfrey.
Thank you. Yeah, I took the housing portfolio in May, June of last year, and all of you will know that we were going through some difficult times. But I went out there and spoke to tenants. I went to lots of consultations, and the decision was taken to bring it back in-house. And I learned a lot from that. It made me a lot more aware of how much we need to involve our tenants and how much we need to keep our staff and tenants liaised together. My vision, thank goodness, is shared by the leaders, the management, the leader of the council. And really what we want to do is provide an exemplary housing service with the tenants at the heart and soul of it, and us supporting them with our service. If we're going to provide a housing service, let's provide a good one. You know, I'm looking forward to upgrading our existing stock. We did allocate some funding for that before last year or early this year. And I'm also looking forward to the ambitious new build programme, because we've got an ambitious new build programme over the next decade. I'm completely in favour of digitisation. We talk about digitisation quite loosely sometimes, but I still get involved in this as a consultant for a company that's eliminating paper in the shipping world. So I've seen what it can do. Good cloud-based computing is something that will be of immense benefit to us. And it's not to be frightened of. It means that we can all work in a manner, whether we're at home or in the office. And I look forward to a time when we can have that service, that good CRM, to bring together a solution accessible to the staff and the tenants, which encompasses the whole story of each property, from the tenancy agreement, rent accounts, repairs, planned maintenance, etc. This is going to take some time, probably up to 2 years. But when we get there, it will give us the tools, the right tools, provide an exemplary service and make us all do our jobs a lot easier, actually. I won't forget, though, that we do have quite a lot of tenants who won't be as computer literate as others for a while, for various reasons. So we will make sure that they are supported in terms of the paper world and the telephone world, and we mustn't forget that. Key to all of this is the people. I'm saying it again. You know, my experience in business is that if you had a good team around you and the team worked well together and understood each other, was transparent and open, then you were going to succeed. And I'm pretty sure from my experience with the offices in our council that that's going to happen in housing. And I'm really looking forward to getting together with you and creating a stimulating and flexible environment for you to work in. And I really believe that we can do that over the next couple of years. So I look forward to getting on with the job. It's challenging and exciting.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Councillor Godfrey. Inspiring. And yes, I quite like the fact that we want to go digital. We want to make things easier for people, but we're also there to support our local tenants as well, with people who will struggle with that. And I appreciate your enthusiasm. Thank you. Andy, would you also like to just let us into what your vision is for the housing service, please?
Again, really difficult because Councillor Godfrey's covered most of it. So I think I'll probably bring this back to sort of my personal and work sort of ethic. And it's just something that stuck with me. My dad always said to me, like, if you're going to do something, do it properly or don't bother doing it. And that has stuck with me in pretty much everything I do through my whole life, and it's what I tell my kids now. And stuff like that. So we've got an opportunity here to build the best housing service that we possibly can. So why wouldn't we do that? We're going to put the resources in place. We're going to put the systems in place. And we want everyone on board who's got that passion and drive to make it the best. And that is really what we want to do. And that's through everything from our repairs services, through all of our sort of tenancy management, through to building our new build projects and estate regeneration. And it really is sort of be at the forefront of technology and what we do, having tenants at the centre of everything we do, and not just to tick a box, because we genuinely mean it. We have got a written vision for the service, which is based around tenants and technology, and the green agenda for our new builds and bits and pieces like that we will share with you soon. But just for an example, I mean, we wrote that in draft format. We took that to the tenant board. It's been through our scrutiny committee, and then that will come back to cabinet later. But we've got that tenant involvement right at the start. We're writing a new tenant liaison strategy, and they really are going to be at the heart of everything that we do. But as I say, we've got an opportunity, a massive opportunity, to do the best that we can possibly do, and that's what I want to achieve. And I hope you will share that vision.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much, Andy. Right, let's move on to question 5, and this is for you, Andy. So you won't be following on from anybody. This is all yours.
No pressure then.
So, what do you want our tenants' experience to be?
I think it very much follows on from what I've just said about that personal work ethic and that vision. I want tenants to feel that they've got a voice. I want them to feel that they're listened to. I want them to need to only tell us once. So that comes back to how we set our service up and how we work together. We want to set it up so we genuinely are one team. I mean, that's one of our corporate objectives, and we really want to demonstrate that through the housing service. So if one of our tenants tells their housing officer that they've got a problem somewhere, whether that's a problem with ASB or a problem with a repair or their property, that they only have to tell us that once, and then it gets cascaded through the organisation, and it's dealt with quickly and efficiently. So people have realistic expectations. Nothing worse than being told something's going to be fixed next week when the person that's telling you that probably knows it's not going to be fixed for another 2 months. So let's have that realistic expectation right from the start. Let's have that honesty and transparency, I guess. I want them to be proud of where they live. And I think most importantly, and I think maybe one of the things that's led us here with the compliancy issues of the past, which we won't dwell on, but we need to learn from them, is that tenants must feel safe in their houses, but not only their houses, but also their neighbourhoods. So I think a snapshot, that's what how I want them to feel.
That's great. Thank you so very much, Andy. Yeah, and I think that's the right thing. It's a thing that I've learned in the short 18 months that I've been with Folkestone High District Council, is this idea of one team, is everybody working together to not only make things better, but be able to solve problems together. So thanks so very much for that, Andy. Right, let's move on to question 6. And this is for you, Susan. For you, what does a high-performing housing team look like?
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll pull out a couple of things that I think I've heard from Councillor Godfrey and Andy, and that is really around the tenant and things focusing around the tenant and their safety and security in their own homes. You know, for me, that is a major and a really quite fundamental building block of people's ability to lead a successful and happy life, having a secure and safe place to live. So that real, I suppose everyone, whether they are in the comms team or the policy team or the compliance team, wherever they are dealing with housing, then they have a focus on the tenant. Also, I'd like the team and the service to be accessible, and that can be through remote technologies as we're using now. It may well be in terms of the neighbourhood location or the block or the individual unit. And also for me, it's around recognising that we're doing things to help others, and that you know, we are here to serve the public. I mean, that is what the role is of the council, is to have an impact, a demonstrable impact in public service. And so for me to have some of those, that essence coming out through how the team behaves and performs is really quite important. So we've got 4 values. They've been at the council for quite some time, but we still think that they hold true. You know, wherever, and we've spoken before now about having a dispersed team, and I'll come on to, I think, my next question about case management, and hopefully some of you have seen the videos. But you know, wherever you are, and in whatever team and whatever job you have, we are one team. So it's about looking out for each other. Hopefully you've going to have some buddies, and you'll have people that we've set up a buddy system that will help you navigate your way around and understand who's who and what's what. So we are one team, regardless of where you sit, what job you do, what role or grade, etc. And so that for me is something that I'd like to see in coming through in the housing management team. We've spoken about tenant and putting customers first. I think I've said enough about that. The other thing for me is about thinking ahead, and Councillor Godfrey has been very generous, as in fact many of the councillors have been, in terms of saying, you know, we have got a mammoth task ahead of us in terms of the transition from the Elmo back into the council. I have no doubt we will have a hugely successful service. It might not be there on day one because there might be some gaps. We might have to get some IT left in place. Teams might need to gel and form a bit. But actually, if we think ahead and we plan ahead and we put things in place, we will get there. We absolutely will get there. And I've given that commitment, haven't we, Andy? We have given that commitment to councillors that we will have a really high performing housing management team. Might not be on day one, but by God, we will get there. So that's the sort of the next bit. And then finally, in terms of performance counts, I think we do quite a lot of staff surveys, and I think we actually have quite a very positive culture in the organisation, and long may that continue and be improved upon. But you know, we are here, as I said earlier on, we are here to deliver a service, to deliver good public service, and to deliver it effectively and efficiently. So performance does count. You know, that is an underlying. And Andy gave his sort of family motto. My family motto is work hard, play hard, and it's as I said to my children, work, and I'll repeat it: work hard, play hard. Sometimes my teenage boys get it the wrong way round, so they do too much of the playing hard and they don't do very much of the working hard. However, so you know, there is an important bit of what we do, and there's an important bit of what you will all do when you join the council, now and as you join the council, and so we in the fun we have, in the positive attitude that we have, there is still a very important underlying issue about performance. So hopefully that gives you a bit more of a feel about what I believe a high performing team will look like in due course.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, everyone. So let's move on to question 7, which is a little bit of a mouthful, but I'll give it my best shot. So the housing service will be fully integrated across the wider council, and it will be embracing the principles of case management. So firstly, Susan, can you tell us a little bit more about what the case management system is? And then secondly, can you tell us how you see this working across the housing team? Now, we do have a short video that we sent out with our email. I can play that now. It's only 1.5 minutes long, and it'll give us a good reminder about what case management is, what the principles of case management are that we use at Folkestone and Hythe District Council. And then Susan will be able to explain a little bit more after that. So let's just make sure. Okay, here we go.
Case management for service delivery. Whilst the case officers and the specialists form 2 teams, they actually work together as one team, sharing the same common goal. That is, delivering services to the customer. The majority of the work involved in each department will happen in case. Case officers will work with other case officers and their team leaders to progress a case as far as they can, and will only hand over to a specialist when it reaches a point where more technical advice, legislation knowledge, or final decisions are required. Some case to specialist handover points will be clearly defined, such as, once planning application has been validated by a case officer, it would then be passed to a specialist for a decision. Other handover points will depend on the individual case. We know that for some people the terms specialist and case are problematic, but it is important to remember that case are not just an admin resource, and specialists are no more special than anyone else. We're all special at FHDC, right? First, case officers will be working on the same work and in the same area that they are at the moment. Over time, they will cross-train on other areas. There are 4 levels within case. So if a case officer was particularly interested in a specific area, training opportunities would be available for them to progress through the levels to become a specialist or team leader. With all the areas to potentially cross-train in, there are many opportunities for development and progression for those who have an appetite for it.
Okay, so that's our short video. Folks, we did share that with you in an email. If you'd like it again, I can definitely get it emailed out to you. So I'll hand back over to you, Susan. So there's a little bit of an insight more into what the case management system is, and how do you see this working?
Okay, thanks for the reminder. It's really good to see that, because I think we was it last year, Jason, that we did that video.
Yes. Yeah.
There's also another lovely little one, isn't there? With there's actual a sort of briefcase as well that snaps shut and everything. So I would just say to colleagues that are part of the webinar, the reason for mentioning that is that, you know, if you're scratching your head a little bit about this, you know, you're not alone. We created these videos to try and help communicate the approach of case management. And that's why we make them readily available to staff, so that you can watch them at your leisure and you can understand and see how they work. It is a key part of our organisation in terms of the case management and the specialists. And that's because we have you know, a series of colleagues that do have some really specialist qualifications and expertise, as you'd expect, but we also have colleagues that do some really hugely valuable day-to-day jobs and processing jobs and administration that actually, without that, the specialists wouldn't be able to do their thing. So actually the diagram with the little eyes and the expressions is really true, that we are all special. So we have two case management teams. We have one that's largely externally focused, so the external service areas, and then we have an internal case management team. The internal case management team is under Charlotte as the Director of Corporate Services, and the external case management team is under Ewan Green as the Director of Place. So what they are, as hopefully the video has illustrated, that they are sort of multidisciplinary, well, the teams consisting of multidisciplinary activities that are largely process based, and they provide that very valuable dealing with someone's inquiry or case or issue that they raise. And I think one of the things for me, which is really important and interesting, is that over time, there are opportunities for cross-training and also for progression. That's not done on day one, but it's there as part of a planned training and development programme. It also means that as a council, we can have added resilience. So rather than, you know, facing cuts and teams go smaller and smaller and smaller to one or two people, and then when that one or two people are either on annual leave or on sick leave, then there's no capability in the organisation to do that function. And I couldn't allow the council to be vulnerable in that way. So this approach has been used successfully in other councils. So we've learned from elsewhere to have these sort of dispersed teams across the organisation. You may well have heard it talking in a different context about matrix working. Where you draw on different people from different teams behind a project or a programme. So people with different disciplines come together, but ultimately it's all held together by the case, which is the supporting structure. So I do see that we will have, from a housing point of view, we will have some colleagues, housing colleagues dispersed across the organisation. They may be, for example, in the policy team, the strategy policy team. They might be in the communications team. They might be in the income collection team. Hopefully you will have had access and you will have seen some of the high level structures that we've got. I think it's a really interesting aspect of what we do, not only, as I said, because of resilience and the ability to deliver effectively, but also it provides progression through the organisation for those that want it. And you'll hear me say time and time again that as a council, we offer lots of progression, personal and professional progression opportunities. We invested very heavily a couple of years ago in the organisation development team, which Jason's in, and we are actually an accredited training provider. We had our Ofsted inspection last year, which we passed with very good colours and a very good crit. So congratulations to you all, Jason et al. And the team there. And we provide services and training functions for other East Kent councils. So for me, it's part of the culture of the organisation about attracting people to work in this fabulous district, in this great council, but also to support those that want personal and professional development. They can go up through, if colleagues are in the case system, they can progress through that system. So I think that has added, probably in the last couple of years, that's added another dimension to us as a council. Our churn rate in terms of staff leaving isn't very high, but our internal promotion rates for those that want it, and it's not don't feel obliged, because some people actually are very comfortable and very satisfied and fulfilled doing certain roles. So please don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But for those that do or want a bit of variety, then this is part of the principle and how we're rolling it out. So hopefully, Jason, that has been a coherent response to support the videos.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Susan. And just to let everybody know, we will be continuing to communicate this out. We took a while to get our heads around it when we first started doing it. It is currently working very well within the organisation. We do have our Join John sessions as well, which is a little bit smaller, where you're all able to ask questions. And we'll also have Andrina from our HR there to answer some questions as well. So this won't be the end of it. You will continue to hear about this. so that you'll be able to hit the ground running when you join us properly on the 1st of October. So thank you very much, Susan.
Welcome.
And moving on to question 8. This is for Susan and Andy. What do you like to work with?
I'm going to go first. I'm going to sound. That's right, Andy. Those are the words on your lips, wasn't it? What am I like to work with? Well, I would say, look, you know, you probably noticed from me jigging around, I'm quite an energetic person. I don't really like to sit still for too long. You know, I do like to get the positive over. However, I can be quite challenging, and I can be quite demanding at times because of the performance issues. You know, being serious now and not too flippant, I am very supportive. I'm very supportive of colleagues, I like to support colleagues, but I also do want the respect. And I'd rather, if there's going to be some, if there's some, I was going to say, I'm just trying to think of the word. If there's something that I should know about, best just let me know about it. I don't like to be blindsided on something. If there's bad news, I'd like to hear bad news first, so that we can work out how we make it better. So I would say, in summary, energetic, positive, but I can also be quite demanding. But hey, you know, Andy will tell you, I'm great to work with. All right.
Indeed, it's true.
Over to you, Andy.
Okay, it's a difficult question really, because it's analysing yourself. We should have done this the other way around, Susan. You should have said about me, and I should have said about you. But things that Susan picks up, I think all of us in the senior team, we have that positivity and that enthusiasm. I think I have high expectations, which again comes back to my work ethic, and doing the best that we can possibly do. I'd like to say on that, I do definitely lead by example. I like to get things done quickly. But I think most importantly, supportive and trusting. I do everything on trust. I think we build really great teams, and we all trust each other. We've all got each other's backs, and we have that trust culture. And what I mean by that is there's no blame culture. If someone makes a mistake, they make a mistake. As long as we learn from that mistake, then that's absolutely fine, and that is that learning curve. So I think that's probably a snapshot of what I'm like, and I just want everybody to be the best that they can be. I want you to go on and do what you want to do. I want you to develop, and those opportunities will really be there, and that support will always be there from me.
Can I come in, Jason, just to say, actually we probably should have done that the other way around, because I mean, I know that many of colleagues on the webinar will be reporting up through Andy, and I would just say that, you know, Andy was promoted internally because he deserved it. There's one thing I will say is that he's a really, really supportive director. So if there are issues, I know and I have every confidence in him that he'll help you sort out whatever it is. He is also absolutely dependable and trustworthy, which is why he's my emergency planning lead. And we've been through a few things over the last couple of months that have given us some depth of experience in that, Andy, haven't they? That we perhaps didn't have come February last. So I would just say to you, all as colleagues joining us, you are in really, really good hands with Andy. He will absolutely get on. I've managed to position Andy in a role that really suits him, because he just gets on and does things, but he does things with integrity and intelligence, with humility at times, and he is driven by all the positive behaviours that you would expect to see in a director, and I'm delighted that he's part of my senior team. And in concluding, because I think this is my last part of the matter before handing to Councillor Godfrey, I would just say that Councillor Godfrey, for those of you joining the service and the council, is a hugely supportive portfolio holder. He's a hugely supportive member. that I know I could, any of the team could go to him with suggestions, thoughts, concerns, problems, and Councillor Godfrey will give you time to listen to your thoughts, your issues on the matter. He will be give you a very measured and considered response, which is really helpful. And he's a hugely experienced person in this world. And we are delighted, and I think you are all in a really good place to have Councillor Godfrey as your portfolio holder, and I've personally had great strength from that relationship. So I'll finish with a thank you to Jason for concluding, because I probably won't say anything after this. I'll thank Andy for just being Andy and helping me keep it all together, and for Councillor Godfrey for being a great political master, shall we say, of the housing service and other things that I know you do. Housing is only one little bit of what you do for us, Councillor Godfrey. So that's my conclusion to question 8, everyone. So over to you, Jason.
Thank you very much.
Champagne's in the post, yeah.
And for our last question, before we get to questions from from our attendees, question 9 is for you, Councillor Godfrey. You're a very experienced councillor. How do you like to work with officers in order to get the best outcomes?
What can I say now after all that? I said earlier I was cajoled into becoming a councillor, and I have to say during my first term, I was first elected in 2007, I found it a very different environment, not surprisingly, to the private sector, and a difficult one to get to grips with, very difficult. But what's happened over time is I think we've become more commercial and more open and more willing to adapt to change. And that's been really encouraging. I still struggle with some of the processes, particularly those around our peculiar accounting systems, which leave me puzzled sometimes, but then I was never a good accountant anyway. I think I've learned to respect, and I think all councillors should learn to respect, that A, they're lucky to have been elected there, and B, you are the trained professionals. And it doesn't matter whether you are a very specialist professional or whatever part of the organisation you work in, you ought to have been trained to work with us. And in fact, your own personalities will have actually fitted in with us. And that comes naturally with this council. People work together well. And I think that's really important to understand, and that we have an open relationship with each other and a mutual respect between the officers and the councillors, because without that, we would be in trouble, and we do have that. I think councillors can add value by obviously having to help direct policy, but also they're the interface and often the coconut shy for the electorate, as you know, especially in these days of social media. We all have to suffer some brickbats from time to time, but I think we've all got a great opportunity in front of us. And I'm looking forward to the next 3 years of this term, by which time we'll have got this job cracked and we'll be moving on to look for the next challenge. But still maintaining the best housing service we possibly can. So I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person one day rather than through a video screen. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so very much, Councillor Godfrey. Really appreciate that. So we've come to the end of our questions. Thank you very much. We have had one that's popped up in the Q&A, which is for you, Andy. So I'll just read it out to you and then just see what we can, how we can approach this. So it's Andy. I think this is a structural question. So are you planning to have the 6 housing officer roles as generic, or are we keeping our current specialisms? Or are some roles such as ASB enforcement and tenant welfare being kept separate?
Okay, thanks, James, for your question. You've obviously seen the structure. I think it's largely up in the air a little bit at the moment. I mean, what we're trying to do, we're trying to appoint, and we've been going through a massive recruitment regime, as I'm sure most of you are aware, seeing the job adverts going out and stuff like that. We have appointed the lead housing management officer, now the specialist, in over that. And what we want to do is we want to bring those people in and allow them to shape the service for that sort of buy-in and use their expertise and knowledge to shape that. I mean, what I can say is that we're going to have, we're going back to sort of a patch management approach. So each housing officer will have a patch they look after. So we're building all those tenant-officer relationships back up. And I see, obviously, it's a smaller operation than you have been used to at East Kent Housing. So I see generic tasks across that board with maybe with you all learning certain specialisms, but obviously we don't also know what all those specialisms are of you all yet. So we don't know the skills that you're bringing into the organisation because we haven't had those meetings yet. But obviously once we start to recognise those specialisms, we'll develop it out from that. So I know that doesn't really give you sort of a conclusive answer, but that's our thinking. So I think the specialisms that you have, we'd very much want to work with those and use you for obviously the best things that you can deliver, but obviously training your colleagues as well, and going back to sort of that resilience thing that you get through case management, that everybody's trained to a certain level, and then handing it over to those specialists. So things like ASB, the low-level ASB might be getting picked up by the housing officers, but then going over to our community safety unit, perhaps, I say this is all to be bottomed out yet, and we really want to bring you in to help shape that service and use your expertise and knowledge as well.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Andy. And then we've got a final question here from Jan. I think this could be both to you and Susan. Will we all be in one office or just sit at the hot desks?
I'm happy to start with that.
Go on.
I mean, for those of you that know the Civic, prior to lockdown, we operated a hot desking policy on the floors 1 and 2, and we had some space available on the floor 6 as well. But also we have a flexible working policy, and we enable and encourage staff to work from home. Obviously, since the pandemic and the COVID lockdown, we've made sure that all teams where they can work from home effectively, beyond some teams like grounds maintenance, for example, that need to get out and about. So what we are in the process of doing now is to look at, in view of the government guidance that's out and as it evolves, what is the most effective and efficient way for the council to deliver its services. So I have given a commitment to staff that they won't be asked to return to work from the Civic Centre until we can do so and provide safe and secure workspaces. You wouldn't expect anything less from me, hopefully. And so we are working through now how we zone the building to enable there to be certain capacity in different zones. So, for example, instead of a block of 4 desks, perhaps that will come down and reduce the capacity down to 2 desks. So we are in a process now working with another part of Andy's directorate, looking at the estate and what the capacity is of those desks. We are also in discussions with managers about how they might like to use that space. So Zone A can accommodate 8 desks, or Zone C can accommodate 12 desks. To effectively discharge their managerial responsibilities and that of the team. So whether that's a weekly team meeting where they want to reserve a zone for 3 hours, or whether it's that they want to have access to one of the offices because they want a series of one-to-ones, and there'll be appropriate cleansing in between those different uses of the offices and the office space. So in response, Jan, I would just say it's work in progress about what we're doing and how we're doing it at the moment. But I have given a commitment that staff will be enabled to work remotely where they can, where their jobs allow that, and we will prioritise the return into the office for those teams that use one of our systems that is a bit clunky to operate remotely. So we use Civica. So there are a couple of teams that we would probably want to prioritise their return to the office first. So that is probably quite a long-winded way of answering your question, Jan, which is it's not just a straight, you'll all be in one office or you'll be in hot desks. It's just we are looking at how we can configure the space safely, and we will be in discussions with managers about how we use that space. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more information, and of course we will explain this information through not only your team meetings but also our all staff briefings. I have been doing some of this Zoom sessions for all staff where we talk about the building and what's happening with that. So there'll be lots of opportunities prior to you formally joining us that will address these issues. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Susan. Those are the only questions that we've had typed in. We've reached the end of our session. It's been so great having you join us, Councillor Godfrey and Susan and Andy. And also thank you so very much for our attendees for joining and for putting your questions in. Maybe this has sparked something in you that you want a question that you didn't feel that you could ask now. Please, by all means, email me. If in 2 days' time you think of something, please, again, email me and we'll do our best to get back to you with an answer. Like I said, we're going to be contacting you in so many ways in the next few months. We've got our Join John sessions coming up, and then we'll also have individual sessions with managers that we're thinking about planning a little bit later on in September. So we'll more than likely get to know each other really well before you actually start on the 1st of October. So if there aren't any other final comments, thanks for joining us, Councillor Godfrey.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan.
And staying with us, I notice.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, take care and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.